Hello. Hi, it's just me. And this is my diary entry of August 27th, 2024. And I'm in Europe, where I grew up. And it really ties in with this topic. I don't know if the topic ties in with my current experience or if my current experience is tying in with the topic that I picked. I grew up in the Pfälzerwald, the Palatinate Forest, which is one of the largest connected forest areas in Germany that's still around. So I grew up surrounded by green. And back then I didn't super appreciate it. I liked it. But these days I'm down with the green and surrounding myself with it. So I'm sitting in my parents' garden. I'm trying to ward off all these little critters that crawl up the cords and the cables I've installed here. All this technology in the garden. I wanted to talk about the color green, which is a kind of a new thing in my life, and also currently has been going on through some pop cultural moments, and also has always been a thing, especially in German history or in some German historical figures. So that's what I want to talk about. I saw some parallels. Do you remember a couple years ago it was all about pink? It was the millennial. Was it the millennial pink or the millennium pink? I think it was a millennial pink. And everything was pink in home decor and product packaging and in pop culture. For example, Harry Styles' album cover was a thing. Maybe pink must come before green, because we're all pink on the inside. I bought a lot of pink clothes. I had a pink suit that I really loved, and some pink silk blouses, pink slip-on loafers and stuff like that. So I was all about the pink. Now green's been creeping in, and you know, I'm a good millennial too, and just like the pink, I do my elder millennial duties, and I love my avocado toast and I love my matcha latte. I'm part of the plant craze too, you know. A lot of people put like a lot of plants in their house, and I'm one of them. And these last couple months I had been dealing with some plant issues in my house. So the weather got warmer and I put my aloe vera out on the balcony, but they were so shocked by the sudden change of environment that they turned gray. So now I'm putting them in this kind of no man's land between outside on my balcony and inside. So they're just sitting by the window, and I hope that they become green again. So I've been waiting for that. And then also I had put my money trees. I had several. I had put them in the wrong spot and they were exposed to too much light. So they were too light green. And now I learned that I have to put them in indirect light. So I did that. And now they're adjusting and becoming a darker shade of green every day. And the money tree is a great segue into the symbolism of the color green standing for money, because we're also going through, at least in pop culture, the concepts or the ways in which we want to and maybe will eventually be able to rejuvenate capitalism and treat money differently. And we now know that money should not be piled up all in one spot like a dragon, like a green dragon would do it, but more like money should be equally and holistically distributed everywhere, like a Dracaena plant's leaves that go all rhizomatic on us. Those long pointy leaves that go everywhere. So yeah, that would be good for money and green. I also have to think of the name greenback for the US dollar, which is almost like a slur or an insult. At least at some time it was. It was an emergency currency made up at the time of need, and people really did not think as highly of it as maybe today. It was made up of this like green ink that stained people's hands, and that green ink to this day is made up of some inorganic like secret ingredients and chromates. I read that these inorganic compound colors are really hard to replicate. That's just part of the safety to protect the banknotes from being copied. But the whole paper money thing was just made up as an emergency. It was not backed up by gold and silver initially, and now currencies are backed up by gold and silver, and those are earthly resources that eventually came to rule the world more than ink and paper, I guess. Hey, but the paper is also made of green. It's made of trees, so oh my god, the interconnectedness of green. It's everywhere. Oh man, the lighting is changing every second almost. I grew up in this village, in this area of the Rhineland Palatinate, the Palatinate Forest, the Pfälzerwald here in Germany. One of the largest remaining connected forest areas in Germany, surrounded by green, surrounded by wine, which is the main agriculture here. And I appreciated it, but differently. I've always loved green things. I became a vegetarian when I was 10 years old, so I've been plant-based and eating my greens since then, so for over 30 years now. I have a bright neon green Kawasaki motorcycle. I love translating sustainability reports, and I love a bowl of fresh limes indicating some kind of style and prosperity on my kitchen counter. Growing up here, I was not a brat. I was not a badly behaved, unruly, wild child. I loved school, I loved learning. I did like wild, unruly things though. Like I was early on into subcultures and punk rock and skateboarding and that kind of stuff, but it was never really truly madly deeply, I guess, a part of it. I think it's just because all these things coming to Germany from outside, I was just like, it felt like it was just a mirror version or like a copy. It was not the authentic true thing, but I liked running with that and consuming these wild, unruly, bratty kind of things. But I was not like that myself. I like when things are organized, and I have a healthy fear of authorities. Growing up as the daughter of a soldier and with kind of a restrictive mom, and yeah. So yeah, recently the meaning of green has been changing outside of me, in the things I consume in pop culture and the things I come across when I go down my rabbit holes. This new meaning of green has reached inside me and now it pulls me, and I really have this urge to be surrounded by it all the time. Yeah, I was not a brat, but I was a Catholic girl. And my Catholicism was also at the age of 10, just when I became vegetarian, was too small, and I was longing for this animated life force of Holy Spirit or greenness that was supposedly everywhere. I needed it to be more holistic, and Catholicism became too small and restrictive for me, and I had to quit it. I was drawn to cosmic ideas and panentheism and pantheism, And one aspect specifically always interested me, and that was healing. And healing oneself and healing others. The constant fixing, the constant self-improvement. So I grew out of Catholicism. So yeah. Wow. I'm just talking shit. You know, up until 5 to 10 minutes ago, there was some real nice komoribi happening here. Komoribi, the Japanese word for the sunlight shining through green tree leaves. But komoribi times are over, and I'm in the full bright sunlight, and I don't like it. I'm gonna go into the shade and study some more Hildegard von Bingen and Charlie XCX, and I'll be right back. Actually, probably I'll be back tomorrow, and I will tell you about the parallels I see between Hildegard von Bingen's viriditas concept and Charlie XCX's brat concept. Diary entry, August 29th, 2024. Still in Leistadt, Germany, and it's idyllic AF here. Surrounded by green, blackberry bushes, an apple tree, and wine. Orchard and wine over here, and the forest starts right behind me. What a setting for today's topic. Also, I hope nobody will come by and look at me strangely, because I'm behaving strangely for this little German village, but I doubt it. Okay, let's jump right back all the way to the Middle Ages and talk about Hildegard von Bingen. She lived in the 11th century. She was actually born in the area close to the town where I was born, in Koblenz in Germany. And she was an abbess. An abbess is kind of a mother superior in a community of nuns, and she lived in this community of nuns, of spiritual women living together in an abbey. She was a writer, a composer, philosopher, a mystic. She was interested in natural history and botanics and medicine. She was all about words and music. Those were the things she was interested in. So yeah, she was the mother superior of this group of spiritual women living together, which is kind of as feminist as you can be in the Middle Ages. She even came up with a secret alphabet, a language that they used. Yeah, she was a bit of an unruly mystic at her time already. Now jumping all the way back to 2012, when she was declared a saint and doctor of the church by the Roman Catholic Church. The Catholics claim her, and she was definitely connected to Catholicism, but she was a reformer. Like, she had this Christocentricity, but as I said, she was a little bit out there, and I will explain more about that in a little bit. But yeah, on her own, there was no real orthodox writing. I think she was interpreted like that, or she can be interpreted like that, which is maybe a biased interpretation. But yeah, so that was Hildegard von Bingen. Her work was really interesting because she connected her interest in nature, natural history, and medicine, and the botanics with her spiritual journey and the interpretation of the Bible. So besides writing about all those topics, she actually also practically worked in those fields and applied them. As most abbeys, those nuns were really big into gardening, and they were also looking into ways of healing medically. And they were into herbal remedies. They made tinctures. They were dabbling in crystal healing, even minerals and rocks of the earth. They were really interested in this holistic kind of healing, a healthy lifestyle, living in a way that mind, body, and spirit are aligned, maybe. She incorporated rest and rejuvenation and sustenance into her spiritual, practical life, you know, not just prayer. And it's pretty clear that her writings, her kind of divine visionary theology was informed by her practical way of living with the herbs and the plants and the fruits and the vegetables of that garden that they had in the abbey. She was a visionary theologist, meaning that her interpretation of God and her way of seeing God was mostly in visions, and she had visions ever since she was a little girl. And her visions were kind of out there. Maybe not if you consider that she lived in this community of women that was really into herbs. Maybe you tried something here and there, maybe a little mushroom here and there. Or she particularly had some really out there visions. When she talked about God, she mostly saw him as a forest, as a rainforest, as this canopy of green, just covering everything. And she also had this specific vision of a green fire coming out of God's mouth. And another one was that when she thought of her own death or people dying, she saw souls rising up and connecting with each other like trees, like a canopy of trees. So those were like the main images she used in her writing and which she saw in her visions. I just witnessed an apple falling off the apple tree. Ah, Mother Superior. Okay, so the concept or the image that I find most intriguing about Hildegard von Bingen and how I got into her is one that kind of combines her theology, her theoretical writings, but her really practical use of her spiritual ideas in everyday life, and how she lived, how she healed, and how she was applying her Christianity. And it's a concept called viriditas, a Latin word for greening, green, becoming green, being green. And she was not the first one to use this concept. It has been found in writings of other spiritual people and mystics, Christian mystics before her. But she used it quite a lot. She did not have like one work on it or one text on it, but it was kind of thrown in to her writing here and there, particularly in her visions and particularly in her writings on nature and medicine and the practical guide on how to live. The viriditas, her way of interpreting the divine spirit or divine nature. Using today's terminology, you could say that Hildegard's approach or her theology is a panentheistic one. Not pantheistic, so not a multitude of gods, but panentheistic, meaning that God, the one God, is in everything. So God is this greening force to her. He's giving us this greening, and it's a life force that animates us. I often had to think of photosynthesis when I was reading through these ways, how she describes that greening and that greening life force. And right now I'm witnessing one of those American military cargo planes landing close by at the military base. Still a war going on somewhere. So viriditas to Hildegard is a creative, animating, and animated force, and it's always at play. It's kind of a spirit that fosters life. It's like a breath of life from the cosmos, the way she describes it. It's very active and vivid and deep and bright. It's infusing our world, constantly renewing, sustaining. It's ongoing. It's about growth, fertility and healing. It never stops. It's total vitality. It's also restoring our physical and spiritual and intellectual realms so they can work perfectly together and live. In her writings, she uses the word burst, or at least that's how it's interpreted or translated. And bursting of greenness is something that's a really strong image to me. Viriditas is the intrinsic power to grow and heal and just fucking go on. It's in our souls and it's in our bodies, it's in our thinking and in our action. It's everywhere. It sounds to me like it's a really like a participatory mysticism. It ensures that everybody is involved, humans and plants and animals and the elements, air, fire, water, earth. It's all part of this greening life force. God, or as I prefer, the goddess, is in everything, and that makes sure that everything and everyone treats each other with kindness. I think viriditas and greening is also a Christian view of seeing that life has ups and downs. Sometimes everything is alive and thriving and green, and sometimes everything is like desolate and dry and dead. So that would be another concept called viriditas. So this play between those forces or those concepts or those states, that plays into viriditas as well. Hildegard von Bingen said that we are all wounded. We are wounded in love, and that we are compelled to heal ourselves and heal each other, and that there is just this participation and this interconnectedness, this real application of the divine word. She was somebody who gave guidance in prayer, and I think she kind of said things like prayer or applying viriditas, applying this greening force and living by it is a way to purify yourself and cleanse yourselves of sin, which I think is really stupid and silly. What I do find is cool is that she says, if you're in this state of viriditas and greening, you have a better connection to yourself, a better connection to the divine, a better connection to each other. It's a state of grace. You're kind of elevated, removing blockages and stuff like that, New Agey people really loved her as well. It's kind of obvious why. And as any good Christian mystic, she also had visions and shared her visions about the end of times. In the end, it will just be nature, the cosmos. Everything will unite, become one. And she also says that is a natural movement that is just going and growing and happening, and we can't stop it. It's occurring on its own. It's this unstoppable force. And in the end, all of nature, including everything that lives, will just be singing the divine praise together. So, not that bad, actually. I'm down with the end of those times. It's hot. And I'm located at the playground where I played as a little child, which is smack middle in the village square. So there might be potential interruptions by people, but I'm gonna try to do it all in one take. It's gonna be messy, but I've got to learn to embrace messes, unedited messes. So I think it's fitting that I'm talking about Charli XCX and her album Brat. Specifically. I don't think I need to introduce her as much as I had to introduce Hildegard von Bingen, because Charli XCX is in the motherfucking zeitgeist. Charlotte Atchison from Essex. She's been around for a decade. I've known her since the song Fancy with Iggy Azalea, because I did my my own take on the rap of that song. Yeah, Charlie's in the charts, but she's also in the collective mood and the collective brains at the moment. The genre is called hyperpop. I don't think I've heard of it before. Yeah, I might have, but mostly in the context with her right now. And a lot of people say hyperpop comes up whenever there's a recession. So that's happening. So she has this whole party girl persona, the rave culture. She lives at the club. She came up with MySpace when she was really young. And she is a pop star that carries her insecurities on her sleeve and in her lyrics. She's described as down to earth a lot. And she says that brat is a coping mechanism. It's about vulnerability. She's an underground musician with mainstream pop hits. And she also says that nightlife is kind of like a spiritual experience for her. Charlie seems very accessible and authentic, aesthetic as well. Organic, relatable, brash, honest, blunt, volatile. Kind of the speak before you think pop star. And the album is often described as refreshing. Very simple lyricism, electric, eclectic. It's expansive, it's a loop. The first and the last song are kind of the same-ish, or play on each other. And from what I've read is that Charlie was pretty involved in the marketing of this project and that it went down somewhat democratic. She was just sowing the seeds and letting them grow, and the whole album concept transcends exclusivity. It's not a packaged reel, it's the real, she said in a Vogue interview. So there's that. She or the marketing or the people listening to the music declared it to be Brat Summer. I got reminded a lot of the indie sleaze times. No bras is a big thing. And indie sleaze times is when I stopped wearing bras and then when I stopped shaving. So that must have been like 7, 8, maybe almost 10 years ago. In that album she has a lot of songs that are about the ideas on how to be a woman in your 20s and 30s, and it's kind of like a reckoning with aging. There's club hits, and on the meta level there's a song called Club Hits. The whole idea of bratness is to be messy but making it work. Kind of what I'm doing right now. If you didn't get that, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down. Well, drugs and drinking, partying. It's about being cocky, mean, sexy, and slutty. About being irresponsible and disobedient. Mischievous, unruly, spoiled, and selfish. A hot mess. As in this summer. That is also a hot mess. It's about being messy, but also about being vulnerable and insecure. And knowingly covering it up with this brat aesthetic and this behavior. You know, it's a big part of humanity or womanhood to do that. She makes her competition with other women and how confused she is over the topic as well. So I think that's what people think is refreshing, showing what's going on behind the scenes of pop stardom, female pop stardom. You know, I like the album, and I like the mix of it's cold electronic music, but there's also a lot of introspection going on in the words. I think it hits a general appeal. It's kind of a universal experience. That's why people like it too. And being a brat means to embody the themes of this album. Nihilistic, disenfranchised, and just tiredly trudging on. Not cleaning off your makeup, for example, right? You go to sleep with your makeup on and the eyeliner all over the place. I would never. But maybe I used to. A little bit. No, I'm overly disciplined. Brat Summer is ridiculous, but it is making hardship easier with stupidity and openness about disillusionment. I like that part. Brat is meaningless, which means it can be used to apply to anything. Everything is brat, or everything can be brat. Even Kamala Harris. And that is the big part of this memification that's going on. So everything is brat, politics, music, pop, memes. So Brat summer is over once it hits the mainstream. It hit CNN. It hit the uncool politicians, the grown-ups. It did it like all memes do it. Like, memes travel from the bottom up. Memes are an inherently democratic internet art form. Going viral is an inherently democratic thing that's happening. But once a meme is co-opted by the wealthy and powerful, it's over. The moment of high popularity is when it's doomed. Mainstream waters down the brat memification, and they manufacture it, they use it and sell it. I just saw that she has a H&M collection coming out, and it's gonna be a lot of neon green in that one. So I might have a look at it. Maybe that's where I get my future green clothes from that I'm longing for right now. Being green means you're trying your best, you know? Trying to recycle, trying to do something against the doom of global warming. Just trying your best. Going green. I think Charlie XCX is a viral pop artist. She's very meme literate. And she's aware that with her lyrics she can change collective vocabulary. Everything is brat. Brat is everything. Brat is to party through a breakdown. Brat is infiltrating and influencing everything. Brat is a reaction to the alchemy of the world. Brat is not exclusive, like I said. It's not preachy, but it thrives on creative connection over everything. I think that's it. I'm done. Location, location, location. Are we kidding? Best YouTube video spot ever. And also, I don't think any YouTube video has ever been filmed here before. Or will be filmed here again. It's a TV tower. It's the area I used to roam as a child and pick berries and put snails in my nose and ears. So here we are. Alright, the grand finale. What everybody has been waiting for. Not. So what's up with all this talk about Hildegard von Bingen and Charlie XCX and viriditas and brat? Well, let me tell you about the parallels I saw between all that shit. Well, obviously, first of all, the color. It's all about green. Both viriditas, the greening, and brat, the lime green meme. But there's more. I think that both viriditas and brat are self-defining concepts, which leaves them pretty open, pretty meaningful and meaningless at the same time, which means they can be used by everybody for everything, which sounds vague, but I actually think that's a strength of these concepts. Both concepts are about feminine contradiction. Both these women, who are kind of the coolest women to me at the moment, are somewhat hedonistic, and they reject the social expectations and norms to an extent. I just thought how they're both child-free or childless, however, whichever perspective you take, but they're both considered mothers, superior mothers in a way. they birth ideas, and that makes them motherly, caring, and all about connection and bringing new things into this world that are not more humans. Brat and viriditas are all about virality and biology, about spreading interconnectedness, a little bit abrasive on the surface, but kind of real and vulnerable underneath, and kind of breaking it down to what I think is humanhood or womanity, which is connection. We're all wired for connection, just like the plants and the animals and the elements. Hildegard and Charlie are both about the divine experience, you know. It can happen on a dance floor in a club, it can happen in a church and in a monastery. It doesn't matter, because it only happens on the inside anyways. I want to reiterate on this meaningful and meaninglessness that both viriditas and brat have. So Hildegard's greening has been made into anything people want to see in it, like the New Age interpretations, the Orthodox interpretations, and I see the same for the brat meme that Charlie birthed into this world. You know, it's first super indie underground and then somewhat mainstream. So the same thing happened there. Like, people take their ideas and run with them, and it can be good and bad. I think it's mostly good, actually. Why not? It's just growing. It's just growing new things into this world. You know, more nodes of connection, more overlaps. Why the fuck not? It led to me connecting the two of them, which I think is pretty fucking unique. I don't think anybody else thought about Hildegard von Bingen and Charlie XCX in one thought. It's just me. However, a big difference. But, you know, don't think about difference in an easy, simple way. Think about difference as another type of connection. Because if two things are different on the same spectrum, they're still connected by their difference. Keep up, people. Keep up with me. So I do see a difference, but it's also development. Because, you know, with Hildegard, there was the big concept of sin was tied into the viriditas, and why we need this greening, the spiritual divine greening from God, because of sin, right? So there was a lot of self-control, a lot of repression of the truth, a lot of purification for the sake of the ones in power. And Hildegard still felt all those shackles. As much as she could, she was breaking out of it and growing and interconnecting. But yeah, she still was shackled down. Whereas Charlie and all the brats nowadays are freeing themselves. They're freeing themselves of this idea of sin, which is stupid. Obviously, we know that by now. There is no sin. There's only self and sex and serving each other out of our own accord or out of kindness. There are individuals, but there is interconnection. So I think that's the connection and difference there, the development, the further growth. All right, so that was my take on green this month of August 2024. If you had told me at the beginning of the year that I would make a video about this, I would have said what? Because none of these women were really on my radar a lot, and I thought my favorite color is blue and pink, but now it's green, and these two concepts are very exciting for me, and I'm gonna dig even more into them. I'm gonna listen to the album some more, I'm gonna read some more of Hildegard's texts, and yeah, I'm gonna dig deeper and grow and dream of a future where I have a garden, which will hopefully be very soon.